Hey, thanks for stopping back by in this week. Thanks for stopping back by in. Thanks for stopping in back. Hey, thanks for being here. We're chugging away on this 97 Springer Heritage. Got the headers on the way. Took a gamble on them. Hopefully they'll be all right. But the snow in Florida, where they're coming out of, has kind of shut shipping down, or delayed it at least. So we don't have the headers this week, but there's a lot of stuff to do that we need to get done even before the headers can go on. So welcome back to Butler Customs Motorcycle Shop. So if you hung out in our last video, you'll know that we did get it running. Man, that was awesome. Also, I didn't know if you know this or not, but I've been sick. Like the last couple of videos, I was sick for almost about 3 weeks. I don't know, I had all that congestion stuff and sinus stuff and coughing and hacking, and my voice just was not any count. So my apologies. Also, another correction. This bike, I misspoke. It is not for sale. They're keeping this bike. They're selling the twin cam Softail that you should see here soon coming up. I haven't picked it up yet. We're going to get this done first, but they are keeping this. I misspoke. I looked at the date codes on the tires, as somebody suggested, and they are 2002. So the last time this had a set of tires on it was 2002, which kind of confirms that this has been off the road in about 18 years, but we're doing good. We're chugging away on it. What are we going to do today? Okay, if we have a plan, here it is. We're going to get the carburetor accelerator pump working, clean the jets out, just make sure that's done, check that off for our list. Since we have the air breather and all that off anyway, it's a good time to go ahead and do that. We are going to put our clutch cover back on, put the clutch assembly together. We are going to change the primary, or take the primary cover off, inspect the chain, inspect the clutch pack, before we put the clutch side on this side back. Hopefully get the rear fender on, get all of our wiring fixed up for that, backlights, start on our brakes and look at our brakes. So we're going to go as much as we can this week. I won't drag it on where it's so long because we are going to see this again next week as well, hopefully when the headers come in. And before long, there are some things I'll have to order, but we should be able, at least with these old tires on, just to take it down the road and see how it's going to handle. We will be replacing the tires. Now, the tires don't look bad at all. They're not cracked. They're not dry rotted. I don't see any issue with the tires, but with tires 18 years old, they just get hard as a rock. And when they get hard like that, it's fine on a warm sunny day when the road's heated up, but on cold days, or especially on wet riding conditions, these get so hard they get slick on you. The front one looks almost brand new, so they didn't have many miles on it when these tires were put on. But we are going to change those out just for safety reasons. We're going to drill out that little cam cover bolt that broke off, and they're common to break off, and let me show you why. This is why these are common to break off inside of that little timing cover thing. You have this big section here, this big fat section. It's got a flathead screwdriver on it that you turn, and then your bolts for the cover actually go in here. But the problem is you have this big fat section that you're turning, and then you have this little screw here. And what will always happen if you're not careful, or even if it just gets caught on something, and I thought I cleaned it out good, but I guess there's just something up in there. When you go to turn, especially if they're old, this will break off right up here where it goes from skinny to fat. So that's what happened on this. They're pretty much easy to get out because these are so small. There's not a lot of big, pressure going in that. So we should be able to extract it and put a new one in, which I have here. that'll work good. Well, used new to them. So I'm trying to save some money. Now on the clutch, here's the clutch cable that I had just off an old bike. It is shot, it's old, it's bad, but I keep this in case, you know, I need one of these, or I need something on this, even like something like that. So I just kind of keep them laying around. This is a braided cable. So what that means, let me show you an example here. Get this boot up. All right, so you have a braiding on this cable, and this is the actual braiding here. Then you have a smaller cable that's lined that is actually the cable right here that you pull the clutch in. This part on this bike was not damaged at all. The only thing that was damaged, as these braids come up here and are clamped in here, they were sticking out a little, and that's what that was. So it wasn't that the cable itself was damaged, it was just that these braids had come up, had ridden up, and I just clipped them off. And so our cable should be good to reuse. Now, of course, if the customer wants brand new cables, we can do that. Braided cables are not cheap. They are pretty, but they're not cheap. Some of the things you'll run into with braided cables, I don't think they necessarily, I think they're more just for looks than they are for functionality. I just like the standard black cables myself. What you'll find on the brake cables is that there's a plastic coating over this to keep the braids from rusting, and they'll peel off over time over wear. This one has as well. So as far as I know, the customer is just wanting to get this back on the road, and that's what we're going to do. Also, I misspoke last video. Man, I did a lot of that. I wasn't right in the head that video. I was freezing in here and half sick. This is the original paint on the bike. So the front fender, rear fender, and tanks, that's original paint as far as I know. It wasn't resprayed, it was just wrapped up, I guess, to do all the chrome work and motor work on this bike. So that should be original. So I hope I answered everybody's questions. Let's get to work. One more thing before we jump into doing some work. I did not realize how many times my phone would go off during videos. I can come out here early in the morning, my phone's quiet, everything's quiet. As soon as I hit record, my phone goes crazy. I didn't realize that, and people were saying, man, every time that phone goes off, I think I check my phone. So it's very distracting. I apologize. My phone's on mute now. So if you're trying to get a hold of me and I don't answer, I will when I stop recording. Some people thought it was even like a blood glucose monitor or something. I don't know. Asking me if I was okay, if I was sick. No, I mean, I was sick, but just a common cold. Trying to make videos better for you. And also, thank you so much to some subscribers that reached out to me and said, donated an entire pallet of wood pellets from a wood stove. Nice and toasty in here, almost 50 degrees. Thank you so much. Let's get to work. All right, we'll get started with the carburetor. Get some of these wires out of the way. Now the carburetor, we do have this VOLES, Volva, I don't know. This little contraption that's electronic controlled emission stuff. All right, got that off. Let's take our fuel line off. I believe that goes to our passing lights and turning lights. So will you sit there, please? Okay. We'll go ahead and take our fuel line off here. It shouldn't be on there tight. All right. Just let that hang. Now we got our choke cable. On the other side, a little plastic nut we just got to back off. And then we go ahead and loosen our throttle cables up here. Now I didn't lock them down last time, so we can just run these in with our fingers here, all the way in on this side, all the way in on this side. Now that gives us enough slack here. We can just pull up and bring these out, down high. Do the same on this side, and you'll have a little, well, let me get the Yeah, let me get the choke cable disconnected so I can pull this out and show you a little bit more of what's going on. We can just kind of wiggle the carburetor off of the intake, run our choke cable out. Here we go. So here's our go fast cable, and we can actually go ahead and pull this up. Just take the cable out. Now on this cable, there will be a little spring. Whoa, still got some gas in there. So you'll want to take your pocket knife or anything small and get that little spring pushed up out of the line. Hold it and then bring it off this and bring that out. And just like that, our carburetor's off. Let's take it over to the table, start tearing into it because still got fuel in here. But when I gave it gas, nothing's working. So as you open your throttle, you're opening up this butterfly right here. So you're letting more air in. Well, as you let more air in, of course, you got to have more fuel. That's what this fuel squirter is for. So as you move this arm, which operates the butterfly, it also pushes this rod down, which is supposed to push this down and this rod down. There's a little diaphragm here, and that squirts fuel right in here. So as more air comes in, more fuel goes in, and you go faster. So that is not working. Something is either not put back right or broken. Something ain't working. I want to clean this choke cable out anyway. Although it was working fine, I want to take it off, clean it out, and then that'll let us kind of set this up a little bit easier. Let's take some needle nose in here and let's get that going. And all right, it'll have a spring, and then, oh yeah, I'm glad we took this apart, cleaned that out. So we'll just set that over to the side. Set that over to the side. Now we can get up here and let's work. I want to go ahead and take this little bottom plate off. This is what holds the diaphragm on. It might be that our diaphragm's fine. It's just something in the arm leverage. Now this will be under tension. That looks good and clean in there. Our O-ring looks good. There's our spring. And this is our diaphragm. And this diaphragm, that's why. This is hard as a rock. You can actually hear it crunching as I try to move it. So this is set for so long, it's lost all of its pliability. Wow. Oh, and it just cracked. So that's how hard this diaphragm is. Wow, look at that. So that's why it wasn't moving. So now we can give her gas, and you can see that arm moving up and down. All right, all right. So now we're good. Let's keep going. I want to clean these jets out since we got the carburetor off. We'll see if we got us a diaphragm to throw in there. The spring looks good. The other O-ring looks good. It wasn't leaking anything. If I've got the other small little O-ring, of course I'll throw that in there too. But it wasn't leaking, so maybe if I don't have it, everything will be fine. Go ahead then, just raise this up. Now it'll be on this little boot and this little arm will come out. All right, hey, there was no fuel left in there. That's great. And the gasket fills and looks good. And then our jets we'll go ahead and pull out. We'll blow them out, clean out the holes in all of those. And then this should be good to just go back on, and we can just focus on this. Go ahead and take this out here. Oh, yeah, okay, we needed to clean it. Now for our smaller one down in here, just move this till we catch it, break it free. These are brass, so you usually don't have to go in tight at all. That is completely clogged. We will clean that as well. I don't want to mess with this if it was working fine to begin with, because if you'll notice, one arm is higher than the other. And right here, there's actually an arrow of the direction you're to push this pin in. And these, for some reason, on these carburetors, are super, super tight. And I've seen these break off, I've seen these break off, and then you're in a mess of trouble. Have to pretty much buy a whole new body to get that fixed. Our diaphragm up here seems to be working very, very good. Well, I'll blow right here over with my mouth, and this should raise up and then let back down. Yes, so that's working good. We don't have to go into here. Okay, clean the jets up. I did find another one of these. Man, look how just crispy that is. It's supposed to be very pliable because it is a diaphragm. And this one is good and rubbery. What you'll have is a big cap and a smaller cap. You'll have a groove on this diaphragm, and that groove sets down in this groove here. So you'll want to just set it down in that groove. Make sure it's pressed down in there good. Then your spring will set on top of that. And then this cap with the washer will go on here. And since we're reusing that, it should stay up in there good for us. And then we'll just line it all up and put it back together. And of course, if we have any issues out of this, if it starts leaking or that O-ring that we messed with starts leaking, with this on the bike, it's easy. Just get your screwdriver up under there, take this off, and you can change anything out with your accelerator right here. So now we're ready to go back. We didn't monkey any with our diaphragms or anything. Oh, let's go ahead and get our jets in. All right, that's a 48. All right, and then my big one is a 180. Remember, they're brass. It does not take much at all. Just give them a little snug. So once it seats, just give it a little twist. When we go back with our cap, you want to make sure your little boot protector is on. And you want to go ahead and get that started in here. And then this accelerator squirter goes down there. And once you have those lined up, just give it a little wiggle. It should set nice and good. Go ahead and throw our screws in. All right, now is our arm moving? Ha, look at that. There we go. Now, as we feed fuel in here and it fills up the bowl, then the diaphragm will push. There's an orifice in here that pushes this up, and it should squirt out. If we see it squirting out, as we throttle it, we are good. So you don't actually have to put this on the bike to test that. Looks like my arm is now operating as it should. So if you ever have this situation where you're like, man, I don't have any throttle, it won't go, it just dies out, burps out. Well, that's because you opened up the butterfly for the air, but you have no fuel going in to mix with that ratio. And therefore you got too much air, not enough fuel, the bike will choke out, the bike will die. So if you ever have that issue, look over here, make sure this arm is moving up and down. If it's not doing that right there, then it could be a really, really stiff and hard diaphragm down here. So easy to inspect and really easy to change. You don't even have to take the carburetor off if that's your issue. All right, now that I have my choke cable on there, imagine that. Might need that. We can run that back through there. And then we'll take our cables here and we'll find out what cable is what. So when I want this cable here to go right here, and that's going to actually, when I pull, twist the throttle, that's going to accelerate. That's going to pull that up. So I want to make sure this is my pull. So a way to figure that out is to just go up here and pull on your throttle like you're going to go down the road, and it's this one going up right here. So this is the one I need for my pull. I'll go ahead and open the throttle up, throw that in there, and stick it on there, and just stick that down in there. Now for our other cable, we don't want to get them twisted. We want them to flow easy, so we'll stick that in there. Now this has the little spring on it. So we'll put the spring on there, set that down in there. Now as I pull this, it'll give me enough slack to actually get this down in here, like that. Now I will not adjust these until I get the carb setting up on there, but at this time we're ready to go up and get these out of the way. And I'll just fit it up in that boot of the intake, and the intake boot looks new. I'll put my line back on for that VOS mess, VOES mess. Hey, I like that. And then my fuel line fell. My fuel line fell. My fuel line fell. Run that up there. Get my fuel line back on where it should go. Just tuck it under there. Tighten it up. And go get my choke set back up on, because we'll need that to actually start the bike. So I want to start with my pull cable first and get it to where it feels pretty good. Then I'll bring my return cable, my push cable back. You don't want to get them so tight that it won't snap back with that spring. All right, I like that. And my pump seems to be okay, still no fuel squirting. Okay, so that did not fix our problem. There's a clog somewhere in this. So we got to do this all again. And I'll get back with you when we're down here to our whatever the culprit might be. This was not squirting anything. I was put air back here. No air was coming out of this. I took this off with vice grips. It's just pressed down in there and you kind of wiggle up and it comes out. I was able to blow through this and I do get air coming out of there, so there's no clog in this. However, underneath this, there's this little needle here. And this needle lets fuel go through when there's pressure, so it just pushes up, and that lets fuel come out. Then when it's not used, this just falls back down, and that stops fuel from flowing back in. So that was stuck down. I couldn't blow it out with my mouth. I actually had to cover this hole here with my finger, put this hole with this stuck in it into the palm of my hand, and take an air compressor and blow in this hole, and then this shot out. So that was stuck down in there really bad. We'll drop that back in there, and then we'll take this and put it back in, and it's got a flat side on this that aligns with the hole, and you want to get this squared up, the flat side squared up with this right here. That way you can make sure that this is squirting right back into your throttle body. Usually you can just press it down. If not, take your vice grips again and just kind of wiggle it back to where it's seated down. Do not hit this. It's hollow on the inside, it's skinny up here, it'll bend. And then you'll have to find a new one of these. Don't do that. So grab your vice grips again, clamp them on there, not too tight. Remember, it's brass, and just work it back down into the housing. Okay, I've got it wiggled back down on there. It's nice and seated. And now, if you put this on the bike and then watch the throttle and it's squirting this way or squirting that way, and then adjust it to where you want the fuel squirting right back down in here. Okay, hitting right in that needle. Okay, hear that? Okay, that's that needle going up and down. Okay, it was not doing that before and I didn't catch it. If I would have just done this and not heard that, I would have known instantly what was wrong. But I'm an idiot. As you guys know that's been watching me. So now let's just put everything back together, go back on the bike, I'll put it back on, and I'll be with you to see if we can get this to squirt. Okie doke, we got everything hooked back up now. Everything's nice and dry. I got some fuel in there. I'm gonna twist the throttle, see if we can see some squirting action now. Ha-ha, look at that. Yes. Yes, that is a success. Very, very good. I don't see anything leaking. I don't feel any fuel. Carburetor is fixed. Now, I'll probably go ahead and buy a carb rebuild kit, get a brand new diaphragm, a new O-ring there, new gasket here, new float needle, everything like that, new diaphragm. We'll just do the whole thing. You can still find the rebuild kits. Don't get the cheap ones, get a good one. I know they're expensive, but they're worth it. They don't corrode under the gas, they don't stretch out, they're a really good fit. So I would definitely do that. But now let's move on to our clutch. Okay, we're ready to go back with our clutch cover. Got a new O-ring here to slide on to our cable. Maybe it runs up through here like that. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? And I would keep it away from the exhaust. Try to get that started. Sometimes these are hard to get started. There we go. Yeah, that makes more sense to me. That sits in there pretty good. Okay, now we're ready to really just assemble this. And I want to just unscrew this for the moment, just so you can get a better view. You have this contraption here. This will set down in a slotted groove up here, just like that. You'll have 3 little balls that will oil up, and will oil these little slots up. Metal balls, like that. 3 of them will set down in there. And then you'll have your arm that also has 3 slots that will go right on there. You will have this little connector that connects to your cable right here. And then that rounded part connects to this right here. And it's slotted so that it only goes on one way, and then once it's in, it will not come back out. That way, as you push the cable, pull the cable and then release it, it doesn't pop out of this arm, it stays in. You actually have to turn it way over here to get this out. As you pull the cable, those 3 balls will cause this part to rise up. As that rises up just that little bit, it pushes on this throwout bearing, which I did replace, and pushes a push rod in and through. So as that pushes in, that will compress the clutch pack out, releasing the transmission from the front. You got a spacer, a throwout bearing, a little roller bearing, and then another spacer and a little clip there. So you just take that off, put your new throwout bearing in, put that together. We'll oil everything up before we assemble. I'm gonna go ahead and oil just under here. Probably not necessary, but all of this is gonna get oil anyway as it feeds it. And then I'm gonna drop some oil down in these slots here. I'm gonna go ahead and drop my 3 ball bearings in. 1, 2, 3. Hook that in my cable first, hold it in place, then go ahead and get this, bend my cable up a little, on there like that. Double check, make sure my balls are in there, and seat that down. Very good. Now I've got a snap ring here that I'll throw on there. Let me actually go ahead and load that snap ring up. Hold it with my finger so I don't fly away, oh glory. There we go, snap that in. Now I won't leave it like that. I'll actually take this, compress it, and I'll move it back here. Now you can see that this goes down. As it pulls, this raises up. Now we'll put our gasket on. We'll go ahead and blue up our threads. It did have the bolts already in the cover, so that's nice. If you get it on the dowels, it will line up. I like to tap a little bit, just to make sure I'm seated on there and all around there. I'm just going to snug them down for now, and then we'll go back and torque them. Now we will adjust the cable back out, and then we'll just crank on the cable, work it back and forth, and we'll see what the clutch pack does on the other side. And we will put oil in it, especially before we try to change any kind of gears or anything like that. Okay, so I adjusted the clutch cable back out, got the slack out of it. Of course, got the, where I could put a nickel in between the slack up here. I pulled the clutch in a couple of times. It did feel a little tight. I was hoping the time we ran it last, the oil kind of got up in there, but we might have to take this apart. We might have some pads stuck to some friction discs stuck to the metal plates. I did it about 3 times and I heard a pop, and that was my pop. The clutch cable broke. So, and it snapped out of that right there. So, everything we just did, we got to take off and do again. Glad that we didn't fill it with oil. That's why you don't. So, it will need a new clutch cable, which probably needed one anyway. We'll go ahead and pull the cover back off, take everything back apart, get this cable off here. We can measure it. I believe these are stock bars that come on the bike, so it should be stock braided cable. I will look at a kit and see before I order to see if we need to replace these brake lines that are braided as well. I don't know what the fluid looks like. Haven't broken open the reservoir for the front yet. So usually you can get them in a kit. Clutch cable, the throttle cables, and the brake cables. Get them braided, which I think looks better on this bike anyway. Our parts list keeps growing. Right, we're over here on the primary side now. I do have oil in this. We got to drop this. It's usually a T30 under here. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Okay, good thing we checked that. Was not tight at all. Well, gosh, get my big mitts out of the way. Get that flowing. Of course, it's going to look new because it is. Not going to try to save on that because we did run it a little bit. And the fat clutch pack has a bunch of grease and grit and stuff, or debris and stuff in it. I'm not going to try to save it. We'll just put some new oil back in it. No big deal. So once that drains out, we'll go ahead and take our cover off. Now to do that, you got this big bracketry here for the floorboard. So I've got to get this arm right here off, which I believe is just 2 bolts with some nuts in the back. Looks like 1/2 inches. Just take those off, get this bracket dropped out of the way. Then 3/16 Allen heads on these. I will break them at first with a ratchet. Then I'll zip them off with the gun. Right, I got that bracket off. Now we put our plug back up in there for the moment, just so nothing kind of leaks out on us. Oh my goodness. Wow. Somebody's tool is broken off in the head of this bolt right here. See that? That's somebody's tool. Snapped right off in there and they just left it in there. So, well, we'll let the next guy figure that out. Well, the next guy is us. Don't do people like that. Let's make a deal. I won't do you like that. Don't do me like that. I hope it just comes out. How tight are you torquing them to snap that off? Never seen that before. All right, it's not broke off flush. I'm wondering if I can just kind of grab it enough to pull it out, because it feels like it's wiggling. So it doesn't feel like it's like rusted in there or nothing. I can see it moving. Would a magnet work? Huh, it did. Oh, it was one of those ball ones. Those little Allen heads got the little ball like that on it. Yeah, they're bad to break off like that. Good. Very good. Now, how tight is this joker to snap that off? Pretty tight. All right, now these are the longer ones. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are going to be longer. They go on the top. When they chrome the threads, they don't ever thread right. They're really tight. And of course, our 2 bolts are out here of the inspection cover because they go to the inner primary as well. Now, depending on how long this has been in here, we might have to get us a mallet on it. Oh, she's been on there a long, long time. Ugh. Okay, I got oil leaking. So it's separated. There we go. Good night, she was on there. Golly. Never. Help me, please. Help me, Oprah Winfrey. Help me, Tom Cruise. What in the world? Goodness gracious. That's the tightest primary cover I've ever taken off in my life. All right, get this gasket off here. Now we can start working on our clutch pack here, and you can see the slop in the chain. It's not excessive, but a little too much. So we'll tighten that up. Of course, we'll rotate till it gets to the tight spot and see what it is. That just might be in the loose spot. Always important to do. But now we can go ahead and get this out. I'm probably going to reset the adjustment because we're putting a new cable on it anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and break this lock nut loose so I can take this out and the lock nut. Then we'll snap ring this off and we can start taking our clutch pack out. So, but while everything's off, you can then check the sprocket here. You can inspect the starter shaft sprocket, inspect all these teeth all the way around on your hub and the sprocket in the back of the hub that the chain rides on. Look inside the chain at the condition of it, and this is a good chain here. A USA chain. What brand? I don't know. You tell me. But everything looks good and clean in here. It looks nice. So this is a 11/16, and this I've just got a ratchet that was bended, and we'll just break that free. Then this can screw out with the lock nut as well. I might not have the right rod in there. I'm not seeing it on this end or on the other end. So I need to measure that rod, make sure I've got the right rod. Now for this clip ring, I find using these little bendy ones usually work pretty good for me. Take that out. Now we can run this in here just enough to pull that out. Yeah, I see the push rod, but it's way back in there. This is an older style of 5-speed. It doesn't have the bolts that you just unbolt, you know, a little at a time and then pull the plate off. This actually has a ring that is snapped in here and kept in here under pressure. So you actually have to compress this down in order to get this little ring out. Then as you take the compression off, then this disc here comes out and you can get to your clutch assembly. So this is an older style 5-speed, and so you might run it up on that. To get this clutch pack off requires a special tool. I've seen guys kind of make their own, but really guys, tools today for Harleys are super cheap. You know, you don't have to buy the gems stuff, which is still outrageously priced. You can buy aftermarket stuff that works quite well. So let me grab mine. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll show you how we do it. Okay, so to use this old Evo 5-speed clutch tool, I will have to put back in this right here. Throw that back up in there. Take this all the way out, load up my spring to put back in there because we're going to use that threaded hole in this for our tool. All right, got that snapped back in. So this here is going to set on the outside of this pressure plate here. And then this is going to thread in, not that, that's too big. This here is going to thread into here, like so. This goes over that. Then as I tighten a nut on this down, it will actually compress that spring in, the spring plate, and then I can actually get this little ring up here on the outside out. So this kit here comes with a washer with a little groove in it. A little roller ball bearing. Let's get some oil on that. And another little washer there. Get some oil on that. Get some oil on my threads. Then I can hold this and simply just screw this in. So a real handy tool. Makes doing the job appropriate. And that will compress that in there, where now we can get that little ring out. And you want to be careful not to break these little tabs off. I've seen some of them break before, trying to pry this spring out, this little C-clip out. All right, well, that just popped out on me. All right, so the clip that comes out has these little hooks here, and they're kind of hard to get these rounded ones in here. I've got some flat ones that I just kind of shaved off flat, but I need to probably grab them. Now with that clip out, this whole system can come out, and you can leave it together like this under compression. And look at that. That was sitting behind here. That's friction disc. I bet you this is gonna have to have a, maybe that's thread lock. Maybe it's thread lock. Maybe. Let's see. Now, if you're gonna have this off for a while, I do suggest just holding it and letting some of that pressure spring off. Don't take it all the way out. Just let some of that pressure off while it's setting. Now, we can go ahead and get to our clutch pack and start pulling those out. All right, there's one. That was stuck together. So I'm going to lay them down in the order that they came out. Here's our steel disc. I do see a little bit of bluing. We will put a gauge on these and see what our reading is. It might need some new clutch. And that's blued right there. Hook in there, hook in there. They are stuck together pretty bad. They are stuck together pretty bad. This is coming off with the plate, the steel plate too. That's why it's kind of hard to come on out. Ooh, these are stuck in there. No good. So we will need a new clutch pack. Add that to our parts list. Will you? Are you keeping the list? I hope so. I hope so. Spacer kind of thing, I guess. And then you'll have some more plates behind here. So don't stop when you get to there. Should be getting close to the end of our adventure here with this clutch pack. There we go. All right, and we're done. We're down to the metal hub there. So we had a friction disc, 1 steel, 2 steel, 3 steel, 4 separator, spacer, 5 steel, 6 steel, 7 steel, 8. And they were burn up bad. All right, so I'm glad we didn't put a new clutch cable on it without inspecting that. Any bike that's been sitting for a long time like that, or really any bike you get that you're just renovating and reviving and getting road ready, if you don't know the condition of it, take a minute and inspect it. Now, if these were good, because I'll tell you, there's no need to measure that. There's hardly any padding left. So if these were good, you know, after you inspect it, put it back. It's fine. These are indeed bad. So we'll add that to our list. Everything else in here looks good. The pad down here for our primary tension pad looks good. The shoe, I think they call it a shoe. That looks good. It looks like it has been replaced. So that looks good. The chain looks good. The hub looks good. Sprocket and compensator looks good. I don't know if it's charging yet. While we got this off, I want to start the bike up and I'm going to check the battery voltage to see if it is indeed charging. Because this would be a good time to go in here and replace the stator and the rectifier if we need to, if it's not charging back to the system. So it'd be a good time to check that. You can run it like this, open, in neutral, won't hurt nothing. To do that, there's nothing on here as far as the outer primary that holds this in. This will throw out, that's fine, it ain't gonna hurt nothing, just to bump it to start it. These teeth do look kind of worn, but they're not excessive. It's probably what you would see in a bike of this age. So I'm not worried too much about this. You can replace this as a whole assembly unit if you have to, but we're not going to do that. These look fine. They look normal. So at this time, we're going to add a clutch pack to our list. That's pretty much going to stop us. I really don't want to put anything else on till we get the clutch in, the clutch cable on, our pipes on, get them routed. Because on this model, I think the pipes have to come off anyway to get the primary off because they kind of come around, I believe. So I'm not going to do anything more until we get the new clutch pack in. I'm probably going to go with the upgraded clutch pack that gets rid of this spacer, and a new pressure plate as well for this tension plate. So we can go ahead, actually, since we're getting a new one, and take this off with our spacer or roller bearing or other spacer. That slides off. That's the little ring. I'll show you how that fits in there. You can put this up now. Okay. So you got this little ring that sets up in there like that. And then you've got this that will clip up under here on these teeth. That'll hold everything together. Actually, I think it goes maybe like that. So we will replace this spring as well. I'm sure anytime I do a clutch, I like to replace the pressure plate unless it's had a new one just replaced. That way I know everything's right in there. I do need to pull that rod out and measure for that. And now since thing's off, I can just push it out the other side. I'll measure, make sure I got the right push rod. If not, there was no other push rod in there, I'll have to order that as well. But you can find those, a good used one, pretty cheap. Well, thank you so much for hanging out in the shop with me this week as we continue to work on this 97 Springer. It's going to be a good bike once we get everything worked out. And with bikes sitting that long, that's just what it is. There's a lot of parts we're going to be ordering for this. Just going to have to. You just got to have it to make the bike, you know, go down the road and shift and stop and all that good stuff. Let me go ahead and pull the reservoir off of that master brake cylinder. That'll tell us real quick condition of inside our cables. If our fluid is gelled up or nasty, then we might need to just go ahead and order some cables. Pop this top off. Wasn't tight at all. What have we got? Oh, okay. It's full, way full. And the fluid looks really good. Just a little cloudy, but really, really good fluid in there. Good deal. So I think our lines are going to be okay. I don't know about our pads or anything like that yet, but if we don't have to replace lines, that'll save a ton of money. With these being as loose as they were, I can't believe it wasn't leaking being turned on its side like that. It's surprising. Well, until next week, take care, stay warm, have fun, and tell your mama now, I said hi.